All right, also tonight, the Biden presidency is going from, well, bad to worse. As inflation surges, gas prices hit one record after another. Stocks are sinking and Americans are suffering under the cost of Joe Biden's failing far-left agenda. And Joe Biden himself, he couldn't be more checked out. Just look at your screen. Earlier today, Biden was spotted literally, jogging, running to Marine One. He couldn't get there quick enough as he scurried out of Washington for yet another relaxing weekend at the beaches of Delaware. And even his wife, Jill, had to grab him by the arm and tell him, quote, "We've got to go." Watch.
Number three, I think we're going to be in a position where we're going to...
Do you still, Mr. President, do you still consider India as a pariah?
1.2 billion people in India are waiting for you to visit India.
I've been to India twice, and I'll be back to India. My relations are very good.
Mr. President.
Jill Biden playing the role of the Easter Bunny. Now, Biden's blunders come as his approval continues to hit one low after another. Because according to a new poll from YouGov, Biden's disapproval, it's at yet another new high. A whopping 56% of Americans disapprove. And get this, more Americans now say they would support Donald Trump in a potential 2024 rematch by a margin of 44 to 42. But if all that wasn't bad enough for Biden and the far-left Democrats, a new report from The Hill is exposing more White House turmoil, with several aides reportedly tapped out, the article says, and looking for the exits. I mean, can you blame them? Having to constantly clean up and walk back Joe's remarks, having to defend one failed policy and blunder after another, and having to work for a president who, frankly, is in steep decline and seems to be trying to bring down the country with him. Costs surging because of Joe Biden. Recession fears growing because of Joe Biden. And confidence in American leadership is dwindling because of Joe Biden. Here for reaction, former White House Chief of Staff Reince Priebus, along with Fox News contributor Joe Concha. Thank you both for being here. Reince, let me start with you. You had a boss who was famously unorthodox, but everyone knew where the buck stopped, who was making the calls. What do you make of what's happening for staffers, for the organization inside the current Biden White House?
Well, thanks for having me, Pete. First of all, you're right. I mean, Donald Trump was the chief of staff. He was the comms director, the press secretary. You know that, and we all know that. But the one thing that he did do was that there were plenty of inputs. He listened to everyone's opinion, and he listened to people who believed the opposite things about a particular issue, and he had a lot of inputs. And so I think one of the things that you're seeing from Joe Biden in this decision-making blunder after blunder is that he doesn't have a lot of inputs, which creates a scenario for a lot of bad decision-making. And then what happens there is that nothing's going well. I mean, what Joe Biden has done is he directly attacked the policies of Donald Trump, and those direct attacks, whether it be gas, whether it be inflation, or you name it, haven't worked. He didn't listen to the warnings from his own economists about pumping the economy full of cash. And so at the end of the day, you've got a staff that is getting nowhere. They're not winning on any particular issues. The Democrat base is not happy with the president. He's at 20% approval, a strong approval among Democrats. Whereas if you look at Donald Trump, in spite of a very vitriolic political environment, he was always at 95% strong approval within his own party. Last thing, Joe Biden didn't do what he promised. He said he was going to look out for the American worker, and the American worker is getting cremated every single day out there across America.
No doubt. Joe, what is the communication strategy? So policy is one thing, and that's the most important thing. Then you don't have to spin it if it's actually working. But if you're having to spin it and you're staring at a binder and you're giving late-night interviews and you're being pulled away from the press pool by your wife, what is their approach?
Well, the communication strategy, Pete, is craptastically, patently horrible, right? Because, for instance, the president said in an interview this week that inflation is high all around the world, that we have a global problem, and we're just a part of that global problem. And then you look at all the countries that have lower inflation than we do. China, for example, has 2.1% inflation. We are at 8.6%. We are 4 times more than China right now. And I could go through all the countries from Saudi Arabia to India, to Indonesia, to Australia, to Italy that have lower inflation than we do. Yet this president thinks that we're stupid enough to think that, OK, well, everybody's having bad inflation. It's just something that's happening globally, and I really have nothing to do with it. So, look, if Donald Trump runs, and it's almost virtually guaranteed that he will, because you don't hold rally after rally in the past year if that isn't the plan, he has some pretty easy contrast to make if he stays on message. On inflation, I'm fairly certain that a businessman like Trump wouldn't say that the solution, like Biden has, is for lowering inflation is spending trillions more. You know, just a hunch on that one that Trump's not going to go to that route, right? Exactly. On gas prices, it's absolutely certain that a President Trump 2.0 or Ron DeSantis, if he's the nominee, or basically any Republican not named, Kinzinger or Cheney, would restart the expansion of the Keystone Pipeline, the XL Pipeline, would open up drilling in Anwar, and wouldn't reject these oil leases in the Gulf of Mexico and the Alaska coast. And on the U.S. border, if we could even call it that anymore, wall construction would be restarted, remain in Mexico policy would be reinstated. Look, the bottom line is that Joe Biden is currently polling at the lowest numbers of any first-term president in polling history. You got to go all the way back to Truman to Trump, and he's lower than that. And David Axelrod, and he's a former chief advisor to Obama Biden in that administration, said that the prospect of a Joe Biden being closer to his 90s than his 80s in a second term is one that almost all Americans, Democrat, Republican, will not embrace in any capacity. That's where we are right now, Pete.
Reince, real quick, Joe just laid it all out. If you're Ron Klain and the chief of staff, you've been in that seat, what do you do right now?
You walk into the Oval Office and you say, Mr. President, it's not working out. You're not happy. I'm not happy. Let's find a replacement to start this thing over, because they need a reset. You know, if you took the SAT today and guessed C every single time, you'd have a better score than what Joe Biden and his team has done.
Wow. That is an indictment.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.